Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside the Cage, where we bring you the latest and exciting updates of UFC. First, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Aljamain Sterling confirms Bantamweight return for Sean O'Malley rematch. Recently, Aljamain Sterling stepped back into the octagon to take on Sean O'Malley. It was the main event at UFC 292, and man, the anticipation was real. Now, heading into the fight, Sterling was all confident about stopping O'Malley's rise, right? But my fight champ, things took a turn in the second round. O'Malley pulled off this insane right hand that dropped Sterling like a rock. After all, Sugar shook up the world with a stoppage win. However, Sterling was keeping his cards close after the loss. Before UFC 292, he was all about wanting to fight Alexander Volkanovski up at featherweight. But, with a loss, those champ dreams got a bit dimmer. By the way, there's a buzz that Sterling might be eyeing about against Ilia Topuria. But now, he seems all set on getting that rematch with O'Malley. This is the reason he dropped the news in a post on X. Rematch 2024, game of inches. I'll be back, he expressed as an announcement. Moreover, Aljamain Sterling mentioned that if a rematch with O'Malley happens, it's probably going down in 2024. Whereas O'Malley is confident and ready to come back in December. It seems like he's ready to step into the cage, whether it's against the Funk Master or anyone else. So, the fight game drama just never takes a break. McGregor's UFC comeback plans for December. In the case of Conor McGregor, his whole situation is just a roller coaster, to say the least. After so many rumors, McGregor's been MIA from the United States Anti-Doping Agency's testing pool. Man, it is going to be a big roadblock for this matchup. He has been sort of trying to nail down a date for his UFC comeback. And you know how it goes, he's been in talks to face Chandler, but the specifics were up in the air. No date, no location, and not even a confirmed weight class for the fight. But hold on, he's doing a classic McGregor turnabout. Just a couple of days later, he's writing on X that things might not be as set in stone as he claimed earlier. It's like following his fight plans is its kind of thrill ride. December is back on the table, ready in both stances. Just around the same time, Michael Chandler did something interesting on Instagram. He posted this day 1-inch thing along with a video of his training. It's like a little teaser of what's coming. The whole McGregor versus Chandler showdown has hit a snag. It's all about McGregor not being in the United States Anti-Doping Agency's testing pool. That's been the big hurdle. And guess what? McGregor isn't eligible to fight until February 2024 unless he gets some special permission. Talk about a waiting game, right? Certainly, McGregor's been out of the game since he busted his leg in that rematch with Dustin Poirier back in July 2021. On the other side of the octagon, Chandler's most recent battle was a submission loss to Poirier in November 2022. So yeah, the fight world's always keeping us on our toes. Sean O'Malley hits back at critics of UFC 292 TKO victory. After UFC 292, Sean O'Malley took a lot of critics towards his victory against Aljamain Sterling. They thought that his TKO win over Aljamain Sterling was called off too soon at UFC 292. If we talk about the real fight, O'Malley went head-to-head with Sterling in Boston for the Bantamweight title. And you won't believe that Sugar was the underdog in the betting world. Not many had their money on him pulling it off. But surprise, surprise, O'Malley proved everyone wrong with a second-round TKO win, snagging the champion title. It was a real moment for him. But you know how it goes. Not everyone's happy about his wins. O'Malley had his fair share of that, too. Now, O'Malley's got a take on this. He disagrees with those critics, and he's got a theory about why they're seeing it that way.
Yeah, I saw some, it's no one that wanted me to win saying it was an early stoppage. It was mostly people that wanted me to lose. The same with the people that said I didn't beat Peter Yan were the same people that didn't want me to beat Peter Yan. I could go out there and kill someone and they would say, yeah, but he could have resurrected or something.
Furthermore, O'Malley even spilled the beans on something interesting. He ended up hurting his hand with all those hammer fist shots he was throwing down during the ground and pound. That's some intense action right there. It's like, in the heat of the moment, he was putting everything into those shots, and well, his hand paid the price. Fight nights are wild, for sure.
I landed that right hand, and I've knocked enough people out that I know when they're fucking out, and I knew he wasn't, but I knew he was very, very hurt. If I would have dropped him and I didn't think he was that hurt, I would have followed up on the ground right there because of how good he is, even off his back. Ideally, he wants to be on top, but that dude can grapple off his back. He's a black belt grappler, so he's very good everywhere. I knew I had him hurt enough to where I could start hammer fisting him. My left side of my hand is very sore from bouncing it off of his head like 17 times.
Whether there's talk about an early stoppage or not, that victory is locked in the books, my friend. And yes, it's like a whole new chapter for O'Malley in the fight world. Guys, if you're enjoying the video, we'd love your support. Just hit that subscribe button to motivate us to bring you more exciting content. Oliveira's takeaways from Volkanovski versus Makhachev clash. Next, Charles Oliveira is getting another shot at that lightweight crown. And guess what? He's going to face off against Islam Makhachev at UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi on October 21st. It's interesting because in their first match, some people were saying that the time zone difference and the long flight might have affected Oliveira's performance. But you know what? Oliveira's coach, Diego Lima, brushed that idea aside. He's not buying into the notion that those factors were to blame for Oliveira's loss to Makhachev in their previous Abu Dhabi showdown. It's like round 2 that's getting fight fans excited. Charles is a guy who hardly feels jet lag. He adapts to the time zone very quickly. Every individual reacts differently, and Charles adapted well to Abu Dhabi, Lima said. If we were fighting in Mexico City, for example, we would have to arrive much earlier due to the altitude. In the case of Abu Dhabi, we didn't need to arrive so far in advance. Also, Charles doesn't like being far away from home. If we talk about Oliveira's last fight, at the moment, he went up against Beneil Dariush at UFC 289 in Canada. But here's the twist. Even though he wasn't a local, Oliveira had the whole Canadian crowd cheering him on that night. It's like he brought his fan base with him. And you know what's cool? Diego Lima was talking about why he's so popular. He chalks it up to Oliveira's charisma and his down-to-earth personality. On the other side of the coin, Makhachev went on to face Alexander Volkanovski in a champion versus champion showdown at UFC 284. But the decision was super controversial and had a lot of people debating it. "We watched the fight and I believe Islam won clearly," he said. "We were able to study what Volkanovski did effectively that we can replicate. Of course, Charles and Volkanovski are different in every sense, but we identified the positive strengths of the Australian in that fight and will adapt them to Charles's game." Now let's see what will happen next to shape the fight between two champions in the MMA world. Adesanya Teases Stylebender documentary with knockout trailer. There is some serious era spotted for the sports fan. Yes, you understand that, right? UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya is hopping on that train and just dropped the first trailer for his upcoming documentary called Stylebender. Simply impressive. On the contrary, this documentary was shot over 5 whole years. Can you believe that? And it's not just your regular behind-the-scenes stuff. Usually this thing gives us an up-close and personal look at Adesanya and his whole team. I was an outsider and I tried to fit in, but I wasn't meant to fit in. Eventually, the documentary featured all the main events of MMA world champion Israel Adesanya. It takes us back to his early days before his magical appearance. After the whole discussion, there comes a big turning point. Adesanya found his way to dancing. Yeah, dancing. It was like this huge moment where he managed to channel all that anger and frustration into something positive. And here's the point. If you've watched his fights, you've seen that crump move he does, right? That dance style played a pivotal role in his journey, and it was on full display when he faced off against Robert Whittaker in 2019 during that middleweight championship bout in Melbourne. And let's not forget the fame game. This guy had to adjust to the spotlight and all the controversies that come with it. But what's cool is that fans are going to get a peek into how he thinks and his whole approach to greatness. It's like a story that's bound to inspire anyone, showing the journey of one of the top martial artists of our time. Now, this documentary called Stylebender and directed by Zoe McIntosh is hitting cinemas on September 28, 2023. But get this. It already made waves at the Tribeca Film Festival earlier this year, so it's safe to say we're in for a real treat with this one. All right, guys, that's all for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you at the next one. Until then, goodbye.